So we recently got back from a trip to Boston, and during that trip, it was just a quick one. We flew out and made our way back within just a few days. We took a piece of travel advice that we hear people talk about all the time, and that is to skip the checked bag and stick to carry-on luggage only. Now, this is something that we've done in the past. Sometimes we just don't want or need a checked bag, but this time we wanted to not only do this, but keep in mind some of the things that might be valuable to you guys if you're thinking about going this route in the future. So I want to share some of my experiences with you, some of the thoughts that have popped into my head throughout the entire process of packing, getting where we needed to go, and of course during the vacation. But I also want to answer a few questions. Is the juice worth the squeeze with this one? Are there any trade-offs, downsides? And most importantly, when people suggest going this route, what aren't they telling you? Because there's bound to be something that they're leaving out, right? So we're going to get into it today, but first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about why you might go this route. So everyone has different reasons for doing whatever it is that they want to do, but this is a suggestion that people make because it not only saves you money, but saves you time, or at least that's what they say. Saving money is a pretty obvious one, especially because when you're sticking to carry-on luggage only, you really don't have to worry about paying any additional fees for a checked bag. Now, this is one of those things that's going to vary depending on your airline and your ticket of choice. Sometimes those do include a free checked bag, sometimes they don't. But if you're on a tight budget and you're flying with an airline that is going to charge you, which is more likely than not, going this route can save you some money. So that's pretty straightforward, but it can also save you some time. Checking a bag means that you're going to have to wait a few times, actually, not only when you check in for your flight so that you can actually get that bag checked in and processed, but also you're going to have to wait for that bag at the end, before you set out to wherever it is that you're headed. And when you go with only carry-on bags, that cuts down on time. You can skip right past that check-in line, which can sometimes be a pretty hefty line, and you don't have to wait around for that luggage to show up on the carousel. You can just hit the ground running and your vacation begins right now. There are also a few other reasons that people like to go this route. One is just that sense of security that your bag isn't going to get lost or damaged. I'm going to be honest with you, that is really nice. And of course, there are likely a laundry list of other reasons as well. For us, saving money wasn't really a thing because we are Delta SkyMiles members. We got the card and all of that good stuff, so we get that checked bag for free. But saving time, that's the thing that really appealed to us. And I'm going to tell you right now, we did save a ton of time going this route. Even though we had an early flight, we got to the airport at like 4:45, 4:50. There was a huge line to check bags at Orlando International. We were able to skip right past that. And there was a pretty good line in Boston on our way out as well, though it was later in the day, so that's probably to be expected. But beyond that, there are some other things that I think are worth taking into consideration because, a few little perks of going this route here and there, that barely scratches the surface. First and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about packing, before you even leave home. Because there are some obvious things that go along with sticking to carry-on bags only when you travel. You're definitely going to have to downsize and keep only what you can fit in that one or two, if you count a personal item, piece of luggage or pieces of luggage. But there's kind of more to it than that gets glossed over all the time. And you know what? For some, it might not necessarily be the most comfortable discussion, but I want to tell you that I understand because I've been there. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself though. When it comes to packing, before you even leave, one of the things that you really have to understand if you want to go this route is that it's not going to work for everyone, and it's certainly not going to work for every situation. When it comes to the situation, look, the longer you travel, the less likely you're going to be able to fit everything you need in just a carry-on, especially if you don't plan on adjusting your travel plans to do things like laundry while you're away, which for me is something I always do, but I know that other people, they don't like to do that. And if you're planning on packing a different outfit for every day, or maybe even multiple outfits depending on when you're traveling, if you're going to be sweating through your clothes because you're coming here to Orlando, this is something you're definitely going to want to consider. But a less fun thing to talk about when it comes to using only carry-on luggage is that the size of your clothes is going to greatly impact whether or not this is going to work for you. And I'm not just talking about the size of your clothes as in, are you wearing a size 22 or a size 14? I'm talking about what exactly you're packing, Are you packing bulkier items because it's going to be cold wherever you're headed? These are things that they're easy to slip right past your mind, especially when so many people talk about, oh, well, I packed 7 days worth of clothes, but they're not telling you where they're going, Yeah, you're going to Mexico and it's going to be hot. You're going on a beach vacation. You're going to Walt Disney World and you're going to have mostly spandex. It's easy to fit 7 days worth of spandex shorts and crop tops in a carry-on only, not so much when we're talking about fitting jeans and sweaters. So keeping that in mind is really important, and understanding that sometimes your circumstances aren't going to allow this to happen in the way that it happens for some other people, which I say from experience. It wasn't all that long ago that I was getting crap from so many people who always said, you're overpacking, but 2 pairs of size 22 jeans, they take up a lot of space, and that was something that I ran into a lot. So try not to stress about that. Understand that this is part of it, and it's just one of the reasons that this might not work for you, or not necessarily in the same way as it works for others. Next, we have to talk about transit, getting where you're going. Now, I know that this is a little bit of a tricky one because you're thinking, well, if I was to go ahead and check a bag, then I have to lug that to wherever it is that I'm headed. But it's a little bit different if you're sticking with only a carry-on, because you might think that this is going to keep you light on your feet, and that's not always the case, especially if you're going to do like we did and move through the city taking public transit or go up flights of stairs. This is something that you're really going to want to consider, especially if otherwise, had you checked a bag, you would have opted to go with a ride share or some other option to get where you're going. This is also where the discussion of savings kind of comes in. You're not necessarily going to get the savings you're looking for if you won't be able to carry your hard-cased carry-on up a flight of stairs and through the city and need to opt for a ride share. If you're going with a carry-on to avoid having to do that with checked bags, it's important to consider that that might still be necessary, and so this might not be the option for you. But again, this is going to depend on your wants and needs and what you're capable of personally. Finally, we have to talk about how this impacts you during your trip. And yes, it is going to impact you through your entire stay. See, when you have such limited space, you have to consider that when you're shopping, or if you happen to need something while you're out, buying that hoodie or jacket, that's going to impact your travel back home. And so now we have to consider, will this fit in my carry-on, or do I now want to check a bag in order to bring this back with me? Of course, there are other options as well. You can stop by a local post office or UPS store, similar, and mail whatever it is that you might pick up or what might no longer fit in your carry-on for the trip back. But you really need to consider that that's going to chop away at the savings of traveling with only a carry-on. And depending on the situation, you might actually spend more going this route than you would have if you just checked a bag to begin with. We did find that this impacted our trip a little bit in Boston. I mean, we were there for the experiences and not for the souvenirs or anything, but there were a few things that we saw and we thought, can I buy this now? Should I buy this now? Is it worth buying this now and then having to go through the process of sending it back? That was all on the front of our minds. So I think that it will impact your vacation, especially if you're someone who might find yourself stressing about that throughout your stay. At the end of the day, I do think that this is a good option, and it's going to be the right option for a number of people. Maybe you're one of them, but I also think that it's important to consider that while this might be a fantastic option, it's also one that takes a little bit more care and consideration than you might be expecting, especially based on what some people suggest when they say that you should go this route. Most people who travel with only a carry-on, they do things like really purposefully purchase just the right bag, and they purchase just the right clothes to make this work. They're not just grabbing a backpack out of the closet and calling it good. So that's important to keep in mind, and it really is an entire style of travel that might be right for you, but it might not. Of course, we could talk about so many other pros and cons and things that you need to consider, so if you think I missed anything, pop it in the comments down below. But I think that pretty much covers it. Of course, like I said, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day wherever it is you are, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.